American Pro Playoffs are underway in the United States. What makes a good rebrand? And we celebrate our new subscribers with a live Q&A here on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, where we dot the landscape of American soccer here. My name is Robert Kerr, local soccer guy to my side. Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. Together, we are Morning Kickaround. How you feeling, sir, on this Monday morning?
I'm still working through a cold. That's a thing that's I think hit a lot of people this fall, and so I'm not 100% Rob, but I'm okay. I'm playing hurt, but that's what you got to do when you're working for the team. So I'm ready. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about. Playoff time in MLS, almost playoff time in USL. Big news. Questions about Lionel Messi's impact on American soccer. That's today's show.
We're both wearing kind of funny soccer kits. I got a gift here. It kind of looks like a church robe, but it is actually like a 1990 Liverpool kit. Got to be supportive. I don't usually rock the English stuff.
It looks like something out of a. Okay. Well, I don't know about that stripe thing. It looks like something out of some weird sci-fi movie from the 60s is what it looks like to me. But I got my Las Vegas Lights shirt on here, Rob, and this one was given to me years ago. I'm guessing at least 7 or 8 years ago. It says Zappos on it, badge in the middle. Not a big fan of the badge in the middle. It's a weird fit. I'll be honest with you. I'm not super comfortable in this one. It's why it doesn't get pulled out very often. They also, with this, sent me a luchador mask and a cape as part of one of their promotions. This is back when Brett Lashbrook owned the Las Vegas Lights, and they were notorious for doing sort of minor league baseball style promotions, very Bill Veeck kind of stuff. Remember they had poolside tickets for Las Vegas Lights games, and it would be like a kiddie pool that you put your feet in, and like lawn chairs alongside, because they were playing at Cashman Field in Vegas in a minor league baseball park. So anyway, they don't do that stuff anymore. They don't drop money on the field and with a helicopter. They don't do any of that, but they do. They give me this kit. So shout out to the Las Vegas Lights.
I'm assuming if there's a luchador mask, they don't have the smiley face on the inside to put your head through it.
No, this one does have that. This one does have that. I'm not going to strip on the show, but this one does have the smiley face. If we get 3 more members today, maybe I'll do that at the end of the show.
Or even save it for the MK calendar that we're talking about last week. I know you're getting in shape for the calendar.
Oh yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, that requires so many sacrifices, Rob. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, but we got to get a lot more support on the show before I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, we got good stuff on the way. Obviously, we're going to touch on the conclusion of the regular season in USL, MLS Playoffs kickoff, what will take MLS to hit the mainstream properly will be a topic. And then we're going to round the show off with a celebration of crashing through 4,000 subscribers. We're going to do a listener and live viewer Q&A, so stick around for that. Speaking of members, Tim Weaver, thank you for becoming our latest and newest MK Ultra, adding to our new additions this week of Dom T and Jason Hemsworth. Welcome into the Morning Kickaround crew. The MK Ultras gets bigger each and every day, and welcome on board all the subscribers for free. You get so much stuff here. 3 live shows, lots of content, bonus content, and Morning Kickaround Discord server for the members. So look into that. Well, let's get the show rolling. Long balls coming at you here on Monday mornings. Morning Kickaround. Welcome aboard Morning Kickaround here on Monday morning. The first game of the first round of the MLS Cup playoffs are underway. The top seeds won their game so far, but not necessarily the easiest path.
Yeah, I mean, we had penalties in Philadelphia last night. Lionel Messi, Inter Miami, doing what you would expect them to do on Friday night against Nashville, and they'll take that lead back to Tennessee with a chance to put away that tie. Hadi Mukhtar with a great goal, but consolation didn't actually matter much.
That's a good note that the consolation really doesn't matter with there being no it's no aggregate to this. It's just wins or losses.
Yeah, I mean, and look, they're not going to stop playing, right? So Nashville's going to go get that goal, but it ultimately doesn't mean a whole lot. Obviously, again, same thing for Chicago. They came back in that game to draw level. It was it was an interesting one in Chester, Pennsylvania, to say the least, and there was some feistiness. It was actually a very feisty weekend across soccer, cross football. I mean, if you watched El Clasico, you saw some feistiness, which is always there between Real Madrid and Barcelona. I was watching that with my kid and trying to explain to him why these guys were being, not nice to one another. Why are they fighting, Papa? I'm like, well, they just don't like each other. It's a thing. I can't really explain it. El Clasico, whatever. I didn't know necessarily there was that kind of heat between the Chicago Fire and the Philadelphia Union, but if you saw the penalty shootout, you saw a little bit of a back and forth there. And ultimately Philly came out on top. And I think they have to be extremely happy that they managed a way to win that game, considering, again, they give the goal to Bamba in the 84th and the goal to Jack Elliott in the 93rd minute.
What a moment that was, eh?
Yeah, what a great and he didn't celebrate. And there was a little bit of discussion about Jack Elliott. Should he have celebrated a playoff goal against his former team? I guess he chose not to. I guess that was I get that. Personally, I would have celebrated like a madman. It's the playoffs, but
single entity, you can never celebrate, right? You're always scoring against your own club.
Oh, come on, Rob. That's taking it to an extreme, right? Come on. Obviously, look, they're the favorites. I think the favorites are still good, right? San Diego also took care of Portland last night. Two very good goals for San Diego. I actually thought those two goals came early. I actually thought San Diego was just going to run Portland off the pitch. I thought it was going to be 4-5-0. Portland did get theirs back on a counterattack from Velde, but I don't know if it, I don't think Portland's good enough. And I think San Diego very well could put that away back at Providence Park in the second game of their series. So yeah, it's the best of three is weird, Rob, and I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. I don't know that it's the right way to do it, but I can still see that there's heat, right? These teams they're not packing it. Like, I don't know. It's not like it isn't still playoff soccer. It is still playoff soccer. I should mention Vancouver taking care of Dallas 3-0. That was a pretty simple one for that Vancouver Whitecaps team, despite missing a bunch of players who would normally start for them, handled Dallas, who wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I would say I was trying to get some fire in my my belly for these games, like trying to invest it. I was actually trying to convince my kids to turn off what they were watching to get them into the MLS Cup playoff viewing mood. Tall order. It didn't work out so well for me. I ended up being relegated to small screens for these, but I was trying to get fired up, but knowing that there was going to be another game in a week that could cancel out these results potentially, it was hard to really buy in.
Right. It's not do or die. It's not do or die. And look, obviously in a two-legged aggregate series, you wouldn't have do or die either. And I'm not sure, is having a winner at the end of the game and that being the first step towards moving on to the next round, is that better than having an aggregate series where in the first game, unless somebody wins 5-0, at which point you think the tie is over and that second game is sort of a dead rubber, who cares situation. The balance of that, I don't know if I have a grasp on it. Obviously, we talked about this last year. This is largely a sort of cynical ploy to bring more inventory for MLS Season Pass and Apple TV. Whether it's benefiting the league or not. I mean, of course, this playoff season takes a long time. You start in late October, you finish in early December. You've got the break in there for the international window. So I don't know. Two more games tonight, Cincinnati and Columbus, which, I will say that one should have some heat to it regardless, right? Whatever the 3-game series situation, that's hell is real. Those two teams really don't like each other. Those two cities really do go after each other. And then Minnesota hosting Seattle is the late game tonight. That one could be interesting too. Minnesota United made a name for themselves with the long throws and the long set pieces and just trying to get the ball in the box, cause chaos. In terms of run and play, they haven't been very good recently. I think Seattle wins the series, but they're going to have to do it as an underdog because they don't have home field advantage.
No, they don't, do they? And I guess I'm really looking forward to, and which is I feel like a little bit of the sting of the weekend was taken out because it's stretched out. I mean, this first game of this first round doesn't even climax until Wednesday night when LAFC take on Austin. So that's really stretching out from Friday to Wednesday, but definitely tonight's game, Cincinnati versus Columbus, is the one that I have circled. And I think we're going to have some MK Ultras on the scene there too.
I will say that if you weren't watching the MLS Cup playoffs when they started on Friday night with Inter Miami hosting Nashville, you didn't get to see Lionel Messi score a diving header. How many times has that ever happened? Ever? It's like, that's like seeing a unicorn, like a diving header from Lionel Messi. What a moment. But people seem not to care, and we're going to talk more about that later.
Yes. We will move along next segment of the show, but definitely got a note that looking forward to Columbus versus Cincinnati tonight. On Friday, we had a video on Fort Wayne FC rebranding for their jump from USL 2 amateur status to next year going pro with USL League 1. And there was plenty of conversation going on the various morning Kickaround threads, some reaction, and it was very mixed, positive, negative. On the show on Friday, we kind of discussed what was the need for a new look. It's still the same club, just going to a different league and attaining a different status. And the conversation kind of spilled over. So I put a post on the morning Kickaround YouTube posts. So if you're unfamiliar, you can see we can do posts and comments and keep the conversation going on the YouTube channel. And it's really mixed. People feel strongly both for changing it and against it. Top of the list, Forza Red 101, the first logo was fine. Same, the mimicked in the second one. The new logo, way better than the old one. Love the brown and yellow. And then another one, Jason Hemsworth, brand new MK Ultra. Shout out to Jason. Loving the bold new look, he says. And then Homeless Shoe, another MK Ultra, saying a bit of a downgrade to me. And when I did an informal poll in my own house, all said they like the old one better. And so it's a bit of a theory of debate. I'm not quite sure where to go on this. Is this just a matter of opinion? Is this a big move?
Okay.
Are they gonna disenfranchise the people that have all their own?
No. We're overthinking all of this. In fact, we had a debate as to whether or not to talk about this at the top of our show prep today. I'm not sure this is a big deal. I do think. Look, let me go back to this. It's said in the chat there, from a production standpoint, the old one doesn't scale as well. I think it is much simpler to reproduce the new badge than it is the old badge, right? Some of the elements. And as I said on Friday or whenever we talked about this, Rob, to me, that old badge is, it's a bunch of clip art kind of thrown together into one badge. It's like, oh, we got squiggly lines. We've got a soccer ball.
It's the river, the squiggly lines of the river.
We've got the stars on it. For what reason? Those other stars mean something? Or are they just nice there to kind of bracket football club? It also says FWFC at the top and then also says Fort Wayne Football Club. I mean, I think there are English teams that do that. I'm not a fan of that. I think that's probably overkill. Look, you don't have to love the new one in terms of like the styling of it, but you can appreciate what it represents. The color scheme is a choice. That is where I do think it is bold, in the sense that how many orange teams are out there in the world, right? The Houston Dynamo. Who am I missing? I know there's an English team that wears orange.
Wolves
Wolverhampton, orange or yellow.
Hull City.
Though.
Hull.
Okay, Hull's the Tigers of Hull City. That is one. That is a good shout. There's probably a handful of other orange clubs. I'm not saying there aren't, but it's not a regular color. It's not a main. Orange County SC. That's actually good. Blackpool. Thank you to Orange County. Orange and black, obviously orange and black. There you go. But there's a reason for that. Like it is kind of a bold thing to do. But at the same time, if you make it yours, there aren't a lot of ways to be unique in world football with so many clubs. And so I appreciate that part of what they're doing there. I think the old badge did read amateur, and this one reads more professional. And I think that is probably what matters to this team as they move forward, as they get ready to open their new building and go professional.
Yeah, I was about to shout him out here. MK Ultra Ryan, he was at the event when they premiered the new look, and he is heavily involved with supporters culture in Fort Wayne, and he's shouting out the actual, is that the swatch number? Is that 2011C Autumn Gold? That's the swatch color for what we're calling orange here for the new look for Fort Wayne FC. But interesting nonetheless. I guess I just felt a little bit of heartstrings pulled that people, have invested being the boys in blue for half a decade. And
that is, look, that is a thing. You are telling people who had already committed to your team. You are sending a message to those fans who were there from the beginning when you were running out amateur players, and it wasn't this higher level. And look, everybody knew that this was coming, right? That was originally the goal. It's not as if Fort Wayne Football Club started and like, oh, we just want to have a team in Fort Wayne and that's all it is. From the very beginning, I remember running into DeMarcus Beasley at a bar for a USL AGM or whatever they call their gathering, and it was in Tampa, and they brought me down to do some broadcasting. And I remember talking to DeMarcus Beasley, and this was from the beginning the idea, right? This was never like, oh, we just want to be a League Two team. No, they wanted to be a professional soccer team in Fort Wayne. And so you always knew this was coming. Maybe you didn't know that the color scheme was going to change, and you feel I don't know, a little hurt by that, or a little treated a little bit poorly. But this is kind of a new beginning, right? So why wouldn't you treat it as, this is a new club, I'm jumping on board, it's still my team in my town. And I don't know. I don't think they should be too precious about the old badge or the old color scheme when we're not talking about a team with 100 years of history, right? Middlesbrough just changed their badge again. They went back to the round badge that they used to have before they went to the current badge. And it's in terms of, like, there's no color scheme change for Middlesbrough. Obviously, they're going to stay red and whatever. But I imagine there are still some fans that are like, I don't like this. And sure, I get it. If they change the color scheme at Middlesbrough, though, or they change the color scheme at your favorite club whose history goes back to the 19th century, then you have an issue. This is different.
I'll do one more comment on the post, so just let you guys know that the YouTube channel Morning Kickaround is a hub. If you want to get news, updates, and comments, the YouTube post page can be a place to check that out. It is the place to check that out. Westach One Touch said, are we really doing that, trying to replicate some English village in the Cotswolds, 100-year-old thing? Which
that's not on here. That's not on the screenshot you gave me. All right, that's a different thing. Is that what it feels like to you?
To me, it's trying to replicate an English thing.
Does it feel like trying to replicate? Is it stolen valor from English football or from European football?
To me, I feel like it just lessens then the people that were there on the ground level to a degree. That's all.
Look, I do think that it's a very tricky thing, the balance between trust that American soccer can be American and it's fine, and we don't need to be too worried about, whether it looks old or has this vibe of continental football and all this stuff. Again, this is why I struggle with FC versus SC. I prefer clubs just take, what do we call it here? What do most people, if you were walking down the street and said, hey, do you know about the professional, would you say football team in town? You wouldn't say that because they'd be confused. You'd say soccer team in town. So why won't you call your team the soccer club and not the football club? I don't want to get started on that, but it does kind of speak to the same idea, right? That there is this really difficult thing within American soccer where you're trying to balance not being cheesy and corny, which people think of American soccer as cheesy and corny from its past. But if you lean too far into the European thing, then you are maybe trying too hard and it doesn't come off right. So threading that particular needle is, I obviously imagine it's a very difficult thing to figure out.
Yeah, no doubt. Nothing straightforward in American soccer. Third long ball of the morning. The USL playoff picture is now crystal clear. USL Championship and League One finished their regular season over the weekend. And I got to say, DCFC fans were absolutely sweating. They had to watch the scoreboard. They got a draw in their final game of the regular season and eventually did get the results they needed. So they got the last playoff spot in the East, but they are placed in the top right corner of the bracket on your screen against Louisville, who just had one of the all-time USL seasons. So tough draw for them.
Yeah, that's what happens when you finish 8th. Is that you get the top seed, you get an absolute monster in Louisville. I mean, I do think that maybe there's a bigger discussion about how Louisville has done this. Just consistently is one of the best teams, if not the best team in the regular season. Now they only have one USL championship title, Rob. So that is always the pressure on Danny Cruz in Louisville. Like, you had this incredible regular season. Can you back it up in the playoffs? Can you avoid getting tripped up by Detroit or potentially Pittsburgh or Hartford or whoever comes out of that bottom half of the bracket? Like, is this a season in which Louisville can run their way to a title? Because I was thinking about this morning, knowing that we might be talking about this. Obviously, American soccer fans, we have a discussion on the regular about how we determine our champions, right? Where MLS Cup playoffs are underway, and it's always a thing. Who's the best team? Is it the team that wins the Supporter Shield, or is it the team that wins the playoff tournament and lifts the MLS Cup trophy? And I tend to think, and I know this is kind of a dodge in some way, but I definitely think that we're just talking about measuring two different things. We're talking about measuring consistency over the course of in Major League Soccer's case, 34 games, versus what does it take to run through a cup competition, right? What does it take to win knockout games? That's a different kind of challenge. And while there are cup tournaments, obviously in England and France and Germany, all these places, we talk about the FA Cup, we talk about the League Cup, those things. Even though they're all those tournaments, those are definitely treated as secondary. They're definitely treated as ancillary trophies. If you win the FA Cup, it's a great achievement. But for top-level Premier League teams, that is secondary. Liverpool doesn't want to win just the FA Cup. They want to win, if they win the FA Cup, they also want to win the Premier League title. And so when we talk about this in American soccer, we're just talking about putting those two things, if not on the same level, because obviously the Supporters Shield does not get that respect, but we are talking about just those two things being alongside one another. And I like this idea that we're saying you have to figure out how to do both things if you want to have a truly incredible historic season. And right now, Philadelphia is carrying that burden in Major League Soccer, and Louisville's carrying that burden in the championship. And it's interesting.
Yeah, comments in from the live MK Ultras have some opinions on the soccer night in Detroit, saying Louisville will beat DCFC, but I don't think they will get past Hartford. That's thinking that Hartford will get past Pittsburgh in the first place. I'm not sure. That actually brings up a story that kind of faded out of my mind. What happened to the coach that they put on leave there in Pittsburgh? That kind of came and went in my consciousness. And then I got to say, on the top left corner, the other number one seed on the Western Conference. Shout out to Tulsa Mario. I saw him celebrating on social media over the weekend that this is the first home playoff game that he's been able to enjoy in his lengthy time supporting Tulsa soccer. So shout out to Mario, who we met out in Albuquerque, and he's taken on his team, taking on the 8th ranked or seeded Switchbacks. Some other interesting matchups there. We got a California matchup between Orange County and Sacramento on the bottom left of the bracket. We have a southern conflict between Locomotive of El Paso and Phoenix Rising, as well as New Mexico versus San Antonio. So
southern. That's not what I would use. I don't think you.
Rather.
Southwestern, sure. Southwest. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Obviously, you got some pretty storied teams in regards to the Western Conference too, and some of the history that they've had. Colorado Springs champions last year, and Sacramento, who's been to a U.S. Open Cup final and obviously been a champion in this league as well. Orange County's been a champion in this league too, of course. So I don't know. It's San Antonio's got a great history. I like that part. Phoenix Rising making the playoffs. They've had some really big years and then kind of faded a bit. Now they're back in the picture. So I'll be fascinated to see this. What about League One, Rob?
Yeah, skipping along to USL League One Knoxville top in the table. So they are in that same position you listed for Louisville and Philadelphia as being the torchbearers of the regular season victors. And they'll be taking on is it Charlotte or Carolina?
No, Charlotte Independence. Yes, Charlotte Independence.
Charlotte Independence there in the first round. And then in the bottom left, we got Naples versus Union Omaha. Top right, We got Chattanooga Red Wolves taking on Portland Hearts of Pine and in the Velocity. And who is that in the bottom right with the Pelican?
Who is that in the bottom right with the Pelican? That's South Georgia Tormenta, Rob.
Yes, of course, the Tormentas. But I got to say, of all these selections,
not called the Tormentas, but I do think that's funny that you did that. Okay, all right.
But I'd say the pick of mine would be interesting. Obviously, Naples had an amazing first year of existence, making the playoffs, getting the matchup. I think it's pretty commendable. Knoxville getting on the board, but I think I'm interested to see what the barnstorming Portland Hearts of Pine can manage in their first postseason.
Yeah, the fact that we have multiple teams in their first season in the playoffs is certainly interesting. You know, Texoma, AV Alta, and Westchester didn't make it in their first year. It's still an achievement. Union Omaha has been champions of this league. Portland Hearts of Pine is the story. If you're a neutral, that you're going to be focused on, you're going to be rooting for them. Obviously what's interesting about League One, at least for the moment, we don't know what's going to happen in terms of reorganization once 7 more teams come in next year, is that you don't have geographical differentiation. You don't split between East and West. This is just whoever's in position, one table, whoever's in these playoff positions, you match up your seeding. Obviously, you got Spokane Velocity, who's way out there in Washington, taking on South Georgia Tormenta. It's like basically 2 different corners of the country, effectively. So I think that is certainly interesting that you don't have that, East versus West or Eastern teams and Western teams split up yet in League One. It'll grow to a point where they'll have to probably do that, Rob. But for the moment, that's not the organization. And actually, we don't know because, of course, some of these teams are going to go up a division or stay, and Division One is coming potentially for USL. So that may make it one table across 3 divisions. But that's one of our questions. We don't actually know how any of this is going to be organized.
Yeah, that's a big question. And that's something I noted on the YouTube channel posts is that, congratulations to one Knoxville, but this is going to look completely different next year. This is a one of one, the way the table was laid out and how everything played out. And conceding here that's not a Pelican, that's an Ibis. I'm being corrected that's an Ibis. Ibis. I can't even say the correction right here. Ibis. Forgive me. A momentary lapse of brain function. No disrespect to
the South Georgia Ibises Tormentas, says Rob Kerr. That's what you say. That's what they are.
I'm dodging bullets over here.
Here's an interesting question from Bernardo. All right, who was relegated? Obviously, we're not in a moment of promotion and relegation quite yet when it comes to USL, but Rob, if we were dealing with a combined table, and obviously, like, part of the deal here that I think is fascinating to consider, and we didn't even include this in our USL questions video that we did, is are you going to have a balanced schedule to determine who gets relegated? Because again, if you have different conferences and you don't balance your schedule, how is it fair? Maybe you only have relegation playoffs in order to figure that out. Maybe that makes it a little bit more fair. But you had Birmingham Legion finish on 27 points.
Birmingham Legion.
Birmingham Legion. The Legions of Birmingham. You had Birmingham Legion and Las Vegas Lights both finish on 27 points. So if you were relegating 3 teams, both those teams will be going down. Monterey Bay finished on 29 points, a point behind Miami FC. So like if it was just on points, it would be Monterey Bay, Las Vegas, and Birmingham going down, Rob. And that obviously, like I said, because it's a 24-team league and they split it up and the schedule's not balanced, I'll let you decide if that's the way, if that feels fair, if that was the way they decided to determine relegation from the championship to League One.
Yeah, that's a really tricky way to parse that out if it's not balanced and even. And hopefully that's within one of the recommendations once Pro Rel comes is an even schedule. But to determine now, do you think that rocks, paper, scissors between the captains of the teams is probably a fair way to play it out? Sure. The future of everyone's career comes down to a best of 3 rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors. Yeah. I mean, I read the original, I read the book that Friday Night Lights is based on. It's based on a real story, and they made it into a movie, and then they made it into a TV show. Yeah, books. I read books.
Wow.
Or I did. I used to have time to read books. So I read the original Friday Night Lights book, and in that book, in order to determine, I think something like who won the division or playoff something, they go and they meet at a cafe and they flip a coin. And I was like, that's how you're determining this stuff. I know Texas is big and there's lots of teams and it's really tough and you're only playing so many games in football. That would be wrong. That would be wrong, Rob, if they were rock, paper, scissoring if they're doing rock, paper, scissors for relegation.
I recall that coin flip scene in the film adaptation of that.
Did they do it in the film? I forgot they did in the film. Is that Billy Bob? Is he the coach in the Friday Night Lights movie? All right, I'm remembering stuff. That's fun.
The face meld of him and the guy who played him in the TV show kind of melted in. That's a weird image of Billy Bob and the guy from the TV show doing it. But that's not important right now. But it is exciting times. Next weekend, November 1st, the USL Playoffs begin in earnest. And thank you so much for tuning in to the live show. Your live comments, and especially if you're an MK Ultra, get on the screen. We're going to round out our show today with a members question and answer. We hit a big subscriber number. We crashed through, absolutely demolished it. We might even be on our way to 5,000. But to celebrate our 4,000, a Q&A for the final segment of the live show today. So thank you to new subscribers. Take on another level of support, becoming an MK Ultra, or just tell your friends, family, and acquaintances about your favorite new show, Morning Kickaround. All right, we're going to move right along and move to a topic I know is top of everyone's minds here. What will get MLS into the mainstream? That and more here on Morning Kickaround. All right, culture wars now more than ever. Major League Soccer trying to get into the mainstream. They have the greatest player, arguably, of all time in the lineup, who had one of the best seasons of all time.
Wow, that's a statement. Arguably? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Rob. I know other players existed. Cruyff existed. Maradona existed. But continue. Sorry.
Well, MLS seems to be doing their utmost to gain popularity and get into the mainstream, but we found an article that says, does anyone care? And we have one of the top shows on ESPN saying they're not even going to be on their top 3 screens. So what will it take to get Major League Soccer into the mainstream of America?
Yeah, so a couple things here. I don't know if I'm framing this as getting MLS into mainstream. Like, I don't even think that should be the goal at this point. Like, I don't think that's how MLS should think about it. And I don't think soccer fans should be carrying this burden of how do we make soccer mainstream. First of all, soccer is mainstream. Soccer is mainstream in America because mainstream has changed and soccer is big and diverse and eclectic and happens all over the world. So while you want to, if we talk about MLS specifically and their business and their attempts to matter more in the American sports discussion, there's something there, right? There is a conversation to be had there. And obviously they want to grow because it would benefit their league, bring more money in. That money can be spent on players. They can become more competitive in ways that are important, not just for making money, although everybody will say, of course, MLS just wants to make money. But in terms of maybe having players that are not here at the end of their careers or here at the beginning of their careers, but are the best players in the world in the middle of their careers. One day that should be the goal for MLS ultimately, right? If you want to continue to grow. Now, there's also an argument maybe that you kind of know your role and you kind of accept where you are. I don't think anybody at the Eredivisie headquarter offices in Amsterdam are like, oh, how do we get to the Premier League level? They kind of know that ain't happening for us, right? We might want to grow and get better. We might want our teams to be more competitive. We don't want Ajax to get hammered or whatever in the Champions League, but we kind of know where we're going to be. I don't know that America is capable of that. So there is this sense that you have to grow, you have to get bigger, you have to attract more eyeballs, you have to bring more money in for whatever purpose, all those things. Right. So I don't know that mainstream is the goal, but there is something to be said for having Lionel Messi in this country right now, playing his soccer with Inter Miami, and that not making the dent people think it should make, or that MLS is fumbling the bag on Messi. I've seen that opinion so many times on social media. MLS is wasting Lionel Messi's presence here. And the reason this comes up is a couple of things. One of them being this tweet or post, I guess this is a tweet, from Jose Roberto Nunez, who covers the Philadelphia Union. And he's got a video attached, which we're going to watch together from PTI on ESPN and with Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon. Legacy media in this country has so far to go before they realize how much money they're leaving on the table by actively demeaning one of the most popular sports in the world, becoming harder and harder to justify the U.S. being a host nation when the largest sports outlet does this. Okay, so we got to take apart this thing from Jose, who I like. I've talked to, good guy, covers a team in MLS. Calling ESPN the largest in capital letters sports outlet, is he technically correct, Rob? Maybe.
Maybe in someone's mind, but yet, I mean,
maybe.
To a young person, I can't imagine it is.
I don't think.
I mean, it hasn't been peaked for a long time.
Nearly as much weight as Jose is giving them in this tweet. Like, I don't think ESPN is driving conversation the way he implies they are by putting this here. Now, but he is also, if you notice, he is not putting the burden on MLS. He's putting the burden of responsibility on ESPN, on Mike Wilbon, on Tony Kornheiser. Now let's watch the video that Jose put into this thing so we can get a context for what's going on here.
The MLS Playoffs are tonight. Inter Miami hosts Nashville SC. Who you got?
I got 3 TV screens, as you know.
Right.
None of them will have that.
Okay.
I'll have the World Series large. I'll have 2 NBA games flanking. I may click over to watch your boy wearing pink. I may do that.
Okay, so this is what got Jose all worked up. That Mike Wilbon said, I got 3 TVs. Mike Wilbon should have more than 3 TVs, right? I feel like Mike Wilbon should have like a wall of televisions. But anyway, my point, I don't have a wall of televisions. Why would Mike Wilbon have a wall of televisions? He's saying, I got 3 screens and I got baseball and 2 basketball games. I'm not doing now. Okay, couple of things. Really, again, maybe we're making a mountain out of a molehill. This is the last 30 seconds of PTI on Friday, right? From a channel that does not have MLS rights anymore, which is worth pointing out, right? That this is not, and some of this comes, I saw Awful Announcing write this up. They wrote up that Mike Wilbon said this on ESPN and then talked about how ESPN doesn't have any incentive to push MLS anymore because they are no longer rights holders because MLS has taken their ball and gone behind the paywall over at Apple TV. Is that a factor here? Maybe. I also think it's important to note that Mike Wilbon's just an old school sports journalist. Like, he's an old school sports columnist. Soccer was not in his repertoire for the last 40 years. Like, he might give it some space. He's willing to admit that soccer can matter. He certainly knows that the rest of the world cares very much. And I don't think he's the worst of these offenders, but how many sports columnists over the years, Rob, have written the piece of, well, if God wanted us to kick balls, he wouldn't have given us hands. America, this is an American sport, is anti-American. It's a communist sport, whatever it is. He's not that guy, but he still holds the small seed of that idea that soccer is not ours, therefore we shouldn't care about it. So I don't know how much I think Mike Wilbon is a representative of a problem from ESPN's perspective or whatever. And Jose obviously takes it to, we shouldn't host the World Cup because ESPN doesn't care about soccer, which that's wild logic for me. But there is you painted this picture. There is absolutely a conversation to be had about whether or not MLS is wasting Lionel Messi. This is from John Mueller at The Guardian on Friday, the same day that Mike Wilbon said what he said. John Mueller wrote this piece at The Guardian, dropped this piece. Lionel Messi just had the best season in MLS history. Does anyone care?
And a lot of a lot of it was like when he tells people that this is the case, and people are like, "Oh yeah, that tracks," and aren't necessarily invested or anyway. They're just like, "Oh yeah, sure, fair enough. That that tracks out. Why wouldn't he come here and do really well?"
So I guess part of this is how much can MLS do? Like it feels defeatist to go, well, MLS can't do much when the Premier League is the best league in the world and the Champions League has the best players and Barcelona, Real Madrid are going to play on the weekend. There is, and obviously this is also a league competing with the NBA, which is back and bigger than ever before. College football is rolling right now. The NFL is happening. right now. Like all of these things which drive American sports attention, the things that consume most of the oxygen in the room are happening right now, both in terms of soccer and in terms of other sports. So I think there is a fair question to ask of what MLS can do. Now, part of this, though, is MLS had a season that played out through a lot of the year where there was only baseball. There wasn't football. There wasn't other things. There wasn't European football even to compete against until August. And you look at the regular season attendance, and Major League Soccer's attendance dropped from 2024 to 25. And Inter Miami's attendance dropped from 2024 to 2025. Now, my first instinct, having watched this play out for the last 25 years as a soccer fan and having been an American sports fan for a lot longer than that, is that people like new stuff. New stuff is exciting. New stuff is, this is new. I want to go be the one who was part of it when it was new. Once it stops being new, people lose interest. And that's not true for the NFL, but the NFL has already established itself as the monster, right? What I'm saying is again, is MLS pushing the boulder up the hill and it will always roll back down? Or is there actual progress to be made? And I don't think you can deny that MLS has made progress. But what do setbacks like this mean, Rob?
What do they mean? Oh, my goodness. I think part of it is it's not widely within our culture, to your point of like NFL just keeps marching on. They have the success, and they do have new players come in almost every other year just because the attritional nature of American football and the NFL. But yes, to your point of looking at this screen and looking at that bar graph, the spectacle of Messi was the thing. But then once it goes from spectacle to just he's a player, a really good player in the team in a lot of people's minds, that could be a big part of the reason for the cooling.
I mean,
and I like
in the beginning, it was, we've never seen Lionel Messi do that here in MLS, in America. I want to see it up close. I want to see it in our buildings, in our stadiums against our teams. And then once he's done it 30, 40, 50, 60 times, well, now that's just a thing he does. And also it has that unfortunate effect for MLS of diminishing the league. Because now, Messi just runs MLS. Well, that's because MLS isn't very good.
But at the same time, the point of that conversation, he would do that at any other league, right? He did that to La Liga.
Sure, Rob, but that requires filling that gap in with thinking logically past what you're seeing in front of you, right? That requires an extra effort of thinking to go, well, of course he would do this anywhere else. And again, that's not provable. And for people who don't like MLS, this feeds the narrative that MLS is trash and Lionel Messi is running MLS because MLS is trash, right? That's just a thing. But obviously, even for people who don't really care about MLS, they might not even have that sense or really understand that Lionel Messi would be doing this regardless of where he plays. This is MLS being damned if it does and damned if it doesn't. You sign Lionel Messi. Oh, that's great. You got Lionel Messi, the greatest player in the world. And then he starts scoring a lot of goals. You go, well, that's because MLS isn't very good. So what do? Don't sign Lionel Messi? Don't sign the greatest player in the world? Don't bring him in? Then people will say, well, you can't attract players like Lionel Messi because he doesn't want to come here because MLS isn't very good. You're damned either way. You're damned either way. And look, that's not to say MLS should throw their hands up and say we quit. You just got to keep doing what you're doing and chipping away. This is a drop of water on a stone, erosion level stuff. Like we're not talking about sudden fast changes. And we are living in an era where everybody wants everything to happen so quickly, and it's probably just not going to work that way. And as I said before, and I think we talked about this with the La Liga game being canceled for Miami last week, that I wrote about it on my newsletter too. I wrestle with this thing of like, does MLS need to be protected? Or sorry, not even just MLS, American soccer need to be protected from things like season matches from La Liga happening in America? Because do you think the Spanish authorities would be like, hey, the Premier League wants to stage a game in Madrid? That's totally cool. Come on over and have a game. I don't think so. I don't think they would do that. And they have a big league and they have one of the best collection of teams in the world. And they still would be like, no, this is our territory. You can't come in here. And yet because America looks like a cash register to everybody, just go take it over there. And you know why? Because MLS isn't big enough to have that sort of cultural weight to say, no, we already have a league here. But why shouldn't our league get to be treated like all those other leagues? I don't know.
Well, I do think that the analogy of the drop of water on stone is apt. And then, yeah, we don't have the cultural force field to be able to repel anything like that. Just think about the American sports that go overseas. Like NFL is playing in Germany. Germany doesn't have an established league to be like GTFO, out of our league with your American league.
But also that's the thing. Like this is also where MLS is a victim of the timing of all this, the era, right? So MLS comes along in 96. What else is happening in the world in 1996? We're all getting connected through the internet, right? The communication becomes so much easier. The ability to see what's happening on the other side of the world changes overnight, essentially. And to communicate, again, like to see these things, but also to talk about them. So Major League Soccer never had an opportunity to sort of, or American soccer, again, whatever league happened, we didn't have that opportunity because we kept screwing it up. Obviously, the NASL was an effort at this. And the NSL is interesting in that regard, Rob, because people showed up for the most part. I mean, obviously, where teams have struggled and they were poorly run and they were playing in the wrong venues and things like that. But in NASL was relatively popular. Certainly, we talk about the Cosmos attendance numbers and things like that. And nobody, I mean, there were expats, sure, but nobody was like, oh, this doesn't compare to the first division. They weren't thinking about that. It was just, hey, we've got this is soccer. We've got guys that can play. Let's go out and watch it. Whereas everything that happens for Major League Soccer is being compared against something else. Like every single thing MLS does is compared against something else. And the reason that English football initially, but also all those other leagues, all those other countries that picked up this game that the English and the Scottish exported, the reason they were able to create their own culture is because nobody was standing there going, well, this doesn't compare to what's happening over there. Because they couldn't even tell what was happening over there unless they were getting a letter in the mail 6 months after something went down, right? They weren't seeing it. I don't know. This isn't to say that MLS is a victim here at all. It's not. It's just to say it's a different kind of challenge for MLS than it would be for almost any other league that's trying to do what it's trying to do. And I don't know if there's an appetite for anybody, even the haters of MLS, for MLS to just kind of, sit down and go, okay, we're good now. This is where we're at. This is who we are. We're a middling league in a giant world full of football. And we'll always come up second or third in our own country to leagues from England or Mexico. Right? We'll always be a second fiddle kind of operation. If that's what, if you think MLS can never be more than that, maybe that's the right approach, right? Maybe that's what they should do. But again, like there is that innate thing, be it because we're American, be it because it's the modern world and capitalism rules, be it because we can see everything else and you just find that competitive juices start flowing. But there is that thing of if you're not growing, you're dying. And Major League Soccer has embodied that. They want to grow as much as they can in every way they can with some constraints on how they spend because they are still conservative on a significant level. I don't know. It's
the MLS,
a big messy
the
thing.
MLS and just American soccer in general, the balloon that's still being held down with some ropes, perhaps from a variety of different.
Yeah, look, and this is none of this is to say that MLS can't do things, that MLS shouldn't be doing things differently, whether it's with Messi, whether it's with the competition, right? We've argued there are too many playoff teams, devalues your regular season. Right? Maybe the League's Cup was an attempt to find ways to bring value to the middle of your campaign, but I'm not sure that's going to survive anymore. Right? Spending rules, the designation on players and how it restricts spending across your roster. These are all things they need to address. Things I think they're doing wrong. And maybe that's all part and parcel of this problem they have of not getting Mike Wilbon to watch their games.
But I feel like there is that cultural erosion because it's not too long ago when, every Sports Center clip had, if they showed any soccer of any stripe, there would be an undermining comment or a mispronunciation or something in like, what do you call it? It's something intentional to undermine the showing or the airtime of soccer. And that was 10, 20 years ago when you couldn't even get a Real Madrid clip to not have a snarky remark attached to it. So I just think that the Wilbons and them need to be, they'll eventually move on. And in the new generation where soccer is in their, wider zeitgeist takes over, like most things, time. But whether or not it'll be the preeminent soccer league in our own country, time will tell. All right, we got one more segment on the way. A members question and answer, a different way to round out our day, celebrating our subscribers going over the 4,000 mark. So get your questions in. A little bit of a Q&A to round out our Monday episode coming up here on Hot Topic on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Stay with us. Hot Topic here on Morning Kickaround, an absolute scorcher, and it's in your lap, viewers. We hit the 4,000 subscriber goal, which we just absolutely smashed past. So we really wanted to give this final segment of this Monday over to you. Get your questions and answers, or get your questions in. We'll do our best to answer them, or at least further the discussion here on Morning Kickaround. So far, we talked about the MLS schedule, the stadium plans. What could they be across the country, having to expand because of PLS? We got playoff brackets. The floor is yours. What do you want to ask Jason and myself?
Can I ask also, just throw this out there? Over the last couple of weeks on Morning Kickaround, obviously we've been doing our regular live shows, right? And if you are a subscriber to the channel, you probably know that we generally take our individual segments, clip them up, and share them on the channel as separate videos. That's it, really just a way to put them into smaller pieces so they're more consumable than somebody sitting through an hour-long show. And obviously we can post the live show with chapters and people can skip around. So I'm completely open to this idea of what is the best way for you to get your Morning Kickaround fix. What is the preferred method? And let us know about that, because, we just dropped a video that we did on the USL and questions around Pro Rel in the first division, which was planned out, which we wrote a script for, which we recorded and then edited. And I'd like to do more of those kind of things as well. And, just to get inside the YouTube world for a second and pull back the curtain, we've got all these different questions about how you're supposed to do this. Right? How are you supposed to launch a YouTube channel? How are you supposed to grow your YouTube channel? What are the best ways, Rob?
There's a whole cottage industry in telling people how to run their YouTube channels. It's incredible. Until we started this, I didn't know how many people told people how to do YouTube.
It's very meta. It's the whole thing is so meta and recursive. It's like this. It's like, hey, I want to launch a YouTube channel to talk about a thing I like, and then pretty soon you're watching videos of people telling you how to run your YouTube channel to get people to watch your channel about the things you like. That's basically what it is. I mean, I don't know. All right, let's go to the questions. Let's go to the chat. If you have a question for Rob or myself, definitely throw it out right now. This is our Hot Topic Q&A to celebrate our 4,000 subscribers. Hopefully we'll do another one soon, like the next couple of days on 5,000 or maybe a week. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, if we continue at the rate of growth, by the time like Wednesday or Friday, we'll be at the 5K. So subscribers keep on coming in, and we'll go to an MK Ultra asking us a question regarding our theme. Our theme is dotting the map with the expansion of American soccer. So we'll go to Riverside Grove here. Is MLS, again, the $, strong work from Riverside Grove, is MLS helping to dot the map or actively, intentionally trying to prevent that from happening?
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously that is, if you want to look at it as a black and white sort of binary, then you could see that MLS is not doing the work of dotting the map in the same way that maybe some other leagues or organizations or competitions are, right? And then I'll piggyback on what Riverside Grove here said with this comment from Orange Black Soccer Cast. In my opinion, MLS views this as a zero-sum game. Any soccer dollar that isn't spent on MLS is a dollar lost. Therefore, they will absorb or kill anything that threatens their soccer dollars. Now, I think it's obviously very easy, and I think the $ in Riverside Grove's question kind of indicates which side they fall on. It's very easy to cast that as evil, right? That this is a battle between black hats and white hats in Major League Soccer. The black hats, they're the ones trying to eat up all the soccer money and dominate the soccer space and all those things that you might hear in a boardroom. I'm not going to deny that that's probably true, that in the way that they think. Does that inherently make them the bad guys, Rob?
Bad guys? I mean, I wouldn't say that they were populous and they were doing everything to plant the seeds of professional soccer in every city across America. I definitely wouldn't go that far. They have to credit them for, there's 30 cities that firmly have it, but whether those dots go beyond those 30, you can't imagine too many more cities or investors in too many cities have
right. Well,
$500 million in order to add a new dot on the map.
I think a lot of this comes down to your philosophy about how soccer specifically is supposed to work and whether you are a soccer exceptionalist. Okay. What I mean by that is you think of soccer as different than these other sports, especially in the United States of America. That whereas the NFL is this big gargantuan, massive money creating organization where you've got 32 teams and it's all big markets and there's no organic element to the NFL. It doesn't feel like it's grassroots for the people by the people. These are millionaires and billionaires who own these teams and run these teams and build their giant palaces with 60, 70, 80,000 seats and are eating up public dollars to do it. They are so central to the identity of our individual cities that they can get away with it or whatever they want, right? That's the NFL. The NFL has this place of predominance in American sports that is unquestioned, right? Absolutely unquestioned. And because of that, because of the way the NFL has developed, and I mean developed in the sense of growth, when they went from the 60s and the AFL Challenge and the Super Bowl happens in the late 60s and the 70s, you get the merger, and the 80s with television becoming such a big part of the NFL's story. And now we're in a worldwide growth moment for the NFL. If you are a business person, if you are just a business person, whether you like soccer or not, and you see what the NFL has done, why wouldn't you go, hey, that's amazing. I want our league. I want my business to be like that. I want my sports league, right? Because that's the prototypical success story for sports is the NFL. So if you are if you're not a soccer exceptionalist, then and you want to see soccer grow in America, that may be your model. The NFL is your model. I think that's largely been the MLS approach. Now, is the MLS ever going to be the NFL? Of course not. And nobody's saying it is. But in terms of how they think in terms of that kind of organization. Obviously single entity changes the scope of ownership, but it doesn't change the mentality that they have of how they operate in a bid to be big. Whereas if you're a soccer exceptionalist, if you think the game belongs to the people, right? And that soccer really is meant to kind of bubble up from the bottom and become a representation of a community or a group of people or a region through the collective effort of people who maybe don't have much money to begin with. Maybe are just doing this for the passion and the love of the game. I love soccer. You love soccer. Let's get together and start a team. And then, oh my gosh, now our team is kind of decent. Oh, and now now people like us, and we can grow up a level or whatever. I'm not talking even through promotion. I just mean in terms of growth as a business, which is the Chattanooga FC story. It's the Detroit City FC story, right? If that's your idea of what soccer should be, to the exclusion of any other way of doing it, then MLS is the bad guy. Then MLS is evil because they don't think that way. They think in terms of franchises and owner operators and public funding for stadiums and all those things, right? They think in the way that the NFL thinks. Now, I definitely think there's an open question because I tend towards the romantic side of that equation. I tend towards this is what we talk about with Dot the Map. I want this to be as organic as it can be. But I think you're naive if you think it can be like it was when Newton Heath started and became Man United. That's not happening. That world is closed. Oh, it's done. That's cooked. So how do we do it in a way that doesn't feel like it's corporate and separate from the passion the people have for the game? How do we do that? Right? And not lose ourselves within that. Right. And again, I think some people have made that choice. MLS is doing it wrong. Doesn't mean that USL is doing it right, Rob, but they're maybe doing it less wrong. It's all a spectrum.
Yeah, we're in a funny place right now. Like if you're thinking like business is the bad guy and this and that and the other. Well, I put it in this way. If Major League Soccer was the only entity doing professional soccer, my state would probably never have a professional soccer team. So in that right, that's that's the enemy, so to speak, for me. But then when there's moves like trying to encroach on the youth, they got this thing called MLS Go, and then now they got the MLS Next Pro independent teams. So it almost seems like they understand that there's not too many Major League Soccer markets or teams to go. So how can we keep growing? And let's go down the ladder. Let's start.
Yeah.
Let's prevent USL from gaining too much ground in those smaller leagues. Or let's start growing down there.
What is different about the landscape when it comes to soccer in America versus the NFL, and we can throw the NBA in here. Baseball is completely different from a cultural perspective, and I think it's the kind of be wrong to pull baseball into this conversation. But if you think about the two leagues that have had the most sort of modern success in growing who they are in Americans' consciousness, that's the NFL and the NBA. Those two leagues also, they exist in a landscape, in an ecosystem where college versions of their sports are massive and massively important to communities that wouldn't have a professional team, right? So when we talk about Major League Soccer, and there's a limit on how many teams Major League Soccer can have, and that would lock out those places that aren't big enough to rate on Major League Soccer's radar for a professional team. And if we're going to have professional teams, we've got to have a second division, a third division, all these things. That's not a thing that the NFL has to worry about, or basketball has to worry about. There's not communities in America going, oh, it's not fair we don't have an NFL team. We don't have a pro football. It's not fair we don't have a pro football team. What they've got is Alabama playing in Tuscaloosa or whatever. Those places where there wouldn't be enough interest in a pro team, generally speaking, have college teams. And those college teams have cultural weight that kind of create this scenario where the NFL doesn't have to worry about that pressure upwards or fans rebelling against their idea of what football's supposed to be. That's not how it works in soccer, right? Even though there's college teams, they don't have the history, don't have the weight, they don't feel the same, they don't scratch the same itch. So there are these communities that we should have a team too. And if Major League Soccer is coming in, and I think this is interesting in Long Island, it's interesting in Cleveland, it's interesting in a couple of these other places. When they come in and say, we're going to put a team here, that feels like them trying to block off the other kind of soccer, right? So I don't know.
And there's also the localization. American football and those aren't quite as keyed in on the local area. Like imagine the catchment area of like Kansas City Chiefs, like how many people travel far and wide states away and still consider themselves like in that area and be a Kansas City fan. But I'm going to move on to another question. One of our MK Ultras, one of our newest MK Ultras, asking us a simpler and maybe more direct question here. What was your favorite match that you saw this season? And I already have an answer. That's an easy one for me. Okay. I'm not sure if you need a moment to percolate on that one, Jason. But
what qualifies as this season? We're talking about the American soccer season that goes back to March. Is that what we're doing here? February, late February? Okay.
That seems fair. Yeah, the 2025 season. Yeah.
Okay. So who you got?
So I'm going to go with the Open Cup game between Chattanooga and Chattanooga Red Wolves. Ooh. That was by far my favorite game of the season. It had been many years in the making. Chattanooga FC, one of the leader independent teams in the country. Through the Anissa Shuffle, they end up in the MLS Next Pro. And then through the Open Cup, one of the beauties of the Open Cup, Chattanooga Red Wolves versus Chattanooga FC. They filled that stadium. I think the percentage of the whole town was at that game. Turned out to be a great result and a great intense match. And there was even a pitch invasion and a flag planting. There was all the things that you would want to see in an Open Cup game. Chattanooga versus Chattanooga Red Wolves, my favorite game of the season.
That is a really good one, man. I think, wow. I don't know that I have a favorite game. I just keep watching games and more games, and then I watch more games, and I don't know that I have a favorite game, I guess.
It was great to see the stadiums filled in places like AV Alta. Obviously the crowds in Portland. Portland had some good games. There's been quite a few good ones through the season. There's not like an MLS game that knocks you over the head that was particularly exciting or anything like that.
I can't think of, I mean, it's not that there weren't exciting MLS games. I just can't pick out a particular a particular game and go, that was the game that I really think about that kind of embodies the season that we just, I mean, I seem to remember a couple of like wild back and forth affairs, but I'm just trying to remember who were involved because that's my kind of game. Like I want a game that's like going back and forth and we've got, goals kind of on both ends of the field. Things are moving quick. If you watched El Clasico this weekend, obviously the quality level is off the charts in that game, and that basically no other game on the planet can touch the quality of the players across 22 of them. But, there are games like that in MLS where they're just kind of like incredibly chaotic in a controlled way and lead us to, gain goals on both ends of the field and all kinds of things like that. So, man, I'm just trying to pick out one, Rob. I don't know if I have a game.
I think this is a learning moment for us. So sort of philosophical, big picture topic. We talk about the changing of the guard and different how leagues place in our psychology and in the wider sports landscape. We can get you to get going on that and discuss that. But picking out a singular game, maybe a little bit of a tougher task.
I did find one. This is how my brain works. There's so much stuff in there. I just have to kind of dig through it and then use things to help. There's an El Tráfico, an LA derby between LAFC and the Galaxy that ended with a draw when Yoshida scored in the 98th minute. I don't know if you remember that game. It was back in July. And that was at BMO Stadium. I remember that game. I remember Yoshida scoring. Obviously, LA Galaxy had a terrible season. And they don't want to remember anything about the season they just had. But I think I remember maybe Ricky Puig was on the sideline during that game and going nuts. I think I remember that being part of the story there. So I'll pick that one. I like rivalry matchups. Like I like rivalry games that have drama attached to them, which is why Hell is Real should be fascinating tonight.
Yeah, Hell is Real tonight. Hopefully, our guy Luke Zagorski comes back with some good visuals from that one. Like to see that. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest edition of the Hell is Real playoff edition between Columbus and Cincinnati. And I think we got one more. I think I already know your answer to this, but Bernardo Castellanos, he's asking us, Baller League is supposed to kick off in 2026. What effect, if any, will it have on the soccer landscape?
Okay, here's where I resent the Baller League. Here's where I'm upset that the Baller League is coming to America. I don't have any more space. I just mentioned all the stuff in my head. I don't need more space in my brain for more soccer things, Bernardo. Like I don't need to also have to know what's going on with the Baller League in addition to what's going on with actual men's outdoor soccer, with the women's leagues, with the women's national team, the men's national team. It just seems like what too much. And can we pick a number? So okay. So the tournament, what's the tournament that they're doing every year? The football tournament, right? The soccer tournament, the soccer tournament.
TST, yep.
TST. That's a 7-a-side outdoor competition, correct? Am I to understand that correctly? Yep. Okay. And then there's the Kings League, which is what they're doing in Spain, right? That's more like a video game influenced indoor competition. They do 7.
I think there's giant dice fall from the sky and whatever there's various situations come from whatever falls from the giant dice.
Yeah, they like
power play or
one player has to hop on one foot for 20 seconds or some nonsense like that.
Goals count for double. Goals count for double and stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. And there's some sort of interaction with the people who are watching, and that happens in a big warehouse somewhere in Spain. The Kings League, that's 7-a-side, and then we have the Baller League, which is 6-a-side. This is a slightly different version of the indoor game, and it's coming here. This is not connected to what Mark Cuban was going to do with futsal, though, right? Because wasn't Mark Cuban going to launch a futsal league at one point? Like, again, so much stuff happening. It just seems like I don't know enough about Baller League yet. I don't know enough about it. What is it? What are we doing here? Why are we doing this? And it's also apparently it also has some rules. I'm learning here. Look. Game changer. Each team has the opportunity to introduce a game changer card before kickoff, allowing the implementation of special in-game. So this is very much like the Kings League, Gerard Piqué thing. Too old fashioned, Rob.
Well, it might be exciting at the time, but like, can you think back on your time? Like, oh, do you remember in the Kings League 2016 when they pulled the double goal scout double card before that? That was classic.
Is it going to have any but that's the thing. Like, this is what I'm not sure of. You're right. But is that an old way of thinking about sports that isn't going to hold much longer, and that we're dinosaurs here when it comes to like, man, I remember that classic game back in 2004, and people were like, what? No, I don't care. There's rolling the dice in the baller league or pulling a card out in the baller league or whatever it is. Now there, and maybe some of the people, maybe there are people in the chat that are old enough to remember this. There was at one point, and I do think this is interesting about starting new sports. And while this is soccer, it is kind of starting a new sport. Do you remember slam ball?
Oh, yeah.
You remember slam
some
ball?
College awesomeness. It was not very good for people's health or like the well-being of like bones not breaking, but it was pretty awesome. And trampoline basketball. They had a league called slam ball. It was trampoline basketball, and this was supposed to be the next big sport. Like, this was going to capture everybody's attention because it was so visually stunning to watch these guys fly through the air off these trampolines to do these dunks and stuff. Does slam ball exist anymore, Rob? You know? I think 5 years was the run max. Yeah. And I just think that they ran out of people willing to do it because it was like so dangerous.
They keep trying. No, they keep trying to do this. They've tried. There's been an attempt at slam ball as recently as 2023.
No way.
Yeah, they did a series in 2023.
Oh, I figured it was like the beach pro beach hockey where it was the rollerblading on the beach.
Oh man,
hockey. I thought it was like that. Like they had a good run, got a little bit of niche popularity, went away.
If your new thing, whatever it is, futsal league, baller league, Kings League, slam ball, name something else. If it's something that in my head belongs on late night ESPN2, like, ESPN the Ocho, if it has that vibe, no, I'm not in. I'm not in.
Not even for a moment, huh?
How about this? Kabaddi is the future. You know about Kabaddi, Rob? I've never actually watched any Kabaddi. Do you know what Kabaddi is?
I'm willing to learn. What is Kabaddi?
Okay, Kabaddi is amazing because Kabaddi it's basically like running. Okay, so you have to hold your breath. Is that right? Am I right about this, Orange Black? You have to hold your breath. The player tries to touch. I gotta go watch it. It's nuts. It's nuts. It's crazy.
Is this something that's so wild that it's not going to get into the late night X Games, or is this like keep the balloon up?
Kabaddi is massive in Southeast Asia. It's massive. Like, it's a hugely popular thing. It's just,
is it diving?
It's a contact sport. You have to tag. Okay, hold on. A raider enters the opposing half of the court to touch defenders and attempt to return within 30 seconds without being tackled. Points are awarded for successful tags, while defenders earn a point for stopping the raider. Again, there's a couple different styles. Yeah, full contact Red Rover is a good description of it, from what I understand about Kabaddi. And again, there's involves holding your breath, and it seems like a game kids just made up in the yard. And I probably played a version of Kabaddi. Now it's actually a big time sport in a lot of places. Like it's the national sport of Bangladesh, for example. So it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I have some research to do, but thanks for throwing the ideas out there. And it looks like that's probably the end of our time. Thank you so much for participating in the morning Kickaround question and answer to round off our 4K subscriber celebration. Thank you for everyone for hopping on board. Thank you to our new morning Kickaround members, MK Ultras, Tim Weaver, Dom T, Jason Hemsworth. If anyone wants to get in the mix as an MK Ultra, you get great access to bonus content. You get early access to videos. You get in on the Morning Kickaround Discord server, which is a bunch of great conversations going on all the time. $3.99 a month gets you a MK Ultra channel membership, and you see it on the screen there. You can also support outside of YouTube at coffee.com/morningkickaround, or write us an email, morningkickaround gmail.com. All right. So I'm already, now that the show's wrapping up, I'm excited for Hella's Real. Got a couple more MLS Cup playoff games to chew through, and then looking forward to some great guests in the remainder of the week. You got anything else for us, Jason?
No, I'm good. I'm excited for more playoffs, and now we know where the USL teams. I'm ready for that too.
All right, get yourself some cold medicine, get your Theraflu and all the different remedies, and get yourself boosted up for a great time of soccer playoff action tonight. And until Wednesday, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.